Hi, my name is Kate Eisen, and today I am going to be discussing Volodymyr Zelensky's role in the war between Russia and Ukraine here in 2022, through a Machiavelli lens, of course. So to start off, I am going to be discussing four main topics. The first is Zelensky fighting alongside his civilians. The second are forcing men to stay in Ukraine and sending women and children away. The third is foreign aid, and the fourth is social media. So first off, Zelensky is fighting alongside his civilians, which is both good and bad. So first, he is putting himself at a huge risk of course, being killed. And if Ukraine loses their leader, well, that's going to throw them into disorder. And Russia will then gain the upper hand because a country in disorder during a war will never, or at least very rarely, prevail. So Zelensky is kind of baiting their downfall by fighting alongside his men. However, on the flip side, this is great for boosting morale. Zelensky is rallying support around him by people seeing that he is actively fighting in this war, which is giving them more of a reason to fight for their country because they could see that the leader has faith in them and that he wants to fight for his own country. The second point I want to make is how the men are being forced to stay at home and the women and children are being sent away to foreign countries. Now, initially, this is a good thing because part of the population is going to be ensured safety. And so if there are a lot of casualties during this war, the population can continue to expand afterwards, and Ukraine is not at any risk of losing all of its people. However, this isn't quite what is happening because we are seeing that some women are actually forcing their kids to go across the border by themselves, and they are staying behind with their husbands. Why? To fight alongside their husbands. We see Ukrainian women making Molotov cocktails to throw at incoming soldiers and tanks. We see women being trained in guns and in the army so they can fight alongside their husbands, which is ultimately giving Zelensky less people to save, but is giving him access to more loyal supporters and not foreign supporters, is people who want to be there, who want to fight for their country. So ultimately, these people are not going to turn against Zelensky once the war is over or if things look grim. The third point is foreign aid. Zelensky has gotten a lot of various types of foreign aid from different countries, such as US, Canada, England. So a huge chunk of it is material goods. He's getting a lot of ammunition, a lot of armor, a lot of aircraft, a lot of boats. You name it, Zelensky is getting it in large quantities. And so a lot of this is showing that Ukraine should have done better at preparing their country for the war because they did not have enough goods to sustain their citizens. Why is this important? Well, Zelensky is going to find himself in a lot of debt to these countries once the war is over, and that is never a good thing. However, the US is providing Zelensky and Ukraine a crucial piece of technology that is less about a power position between the Ukrainians getting access to this technology and the US having it, and more of a brilliant tactic to help ensure the safety of Ukraine, and that is satellite imagery. With satellite imagery, Russia is now having a much harder time being able to take Ukraine's areas by surprise because all of a sudden, Ukraine has this eye in the sky. And it's not like the US had to suddenly go out and build thousands of satellites and send them up into space. This technology was already there. So Ukraine's just got access to it, which puts them in a lot less of a detrimental position to owing the US billions of dollars after the war is over. And finally, Zelensky has gained access to about 20,000 foreign troops. These troops, however, are not from one specific country. Instead, these are individuals acting separately from their government, wanting to fight in the war. So they are coming, flying from all different parts of the world, whether they have ties to Ukraine, heritage to Ukraine, or just want to fight. They're coming in and they're training and they're acting as loyal men to Zelensky, being able to fight for him, to help him against Russia without putting him in a position of debt to any of these other countries because he is not responsible for them. These people are acting independently and the countries did not send them. The final point I want to make is social media. This war has a huge, huge impact on how social media is used, specifically, mostly with Ukraine, but also social media is being used by both sides. And here is how. So while Ukraine is mostly getting footage out there of what is happening in its borders, what the Russians are doing, Russia has a blockade of misinformation trying to consume its citizens and make them think that the war on Ukraine is A, not as bad as it is, and B, not their fault. However, Ukrainian forces are trying to get past that, as well as other foreigners, and they're trying to get this information and footage to Russia that the government is feeding them lies and they should not want the war. However, you could see this in a lot of news articles and a lot of footage that people are getting the information and that they're starting to protest, but they're being silenced. So unfortunately, that is not too much I could go into because then that gets more into Russia and not about Ukraine and Zelensky. Back to Ukraine, Zelensky is using social media to help rally support and loyalty among civilians. He is often seen on videos in military garb alongside troops saying, "We are out here fighting, keep fighting, we have got this," which is greatly boosting loyalty and morale. However, Russia is then countering it with deep fakes of Zelensky saying to lay down your weapons and surrender to Russian forces, which then causes Zelensky and the other Ukrainian government, to then have to go online and say this information is not real. Please do not listen to it. So in the end, this technology benefits not one over the other. It's just being used by both. But it greatly benefits Zelensky because he is rallying a lot of support from people around him, whether Ukrainian or people around the world, seeing what is actually happening within Ukraine's borders. And this is inspiring Ukrainian citizens to film their own footage of what is happening right outside of their homes, just to show people what exactly is happening. And this allows people to be able to put their own judgment on what side they should be on in this war, which, judging by all of the footage shown, is on the side of the Ukrainians. So in the end, Zelensky has a lot of good things going for him in Ukraine, whether it's access to satellite imagery, use of foreign troops, and then also building a lot of loyal supporters around him. But also he is making some crucial and very grave mistakes by fighting and getting a lot of foreign aid from countries. Because in the end, he might lose his life, or if not, he's going to be in a lot of debt to these countries. Thank you.